What's the $1,000,000 question in Nashville? Are we going to see Juuse Saros back in time for the playoffs? There's a couple updates from John Hynes. Plus, what's Nashville's contingency plan? Who's going to wind up starting in the postseason if Juuse Saros can't go? Plus, big matchup tonight against a team the Preds could see in the first round of the playoffs, the Colorado Avalanche. Full preview of that game coming up tonight on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at ontheforecheck.com.
Is it just me, Ann, or does it seem like this week has been a full month?
Oh, it is dog years. Like from the moment Juuse Saros stepped off the ice, every moment has felt like hockey dog years.
Even before then, it just seems like we've all been through the ringer, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, this has been an emotional roller coaster wind down to the end of the season. And just want to point out that had the Preds played a little bit differently in March, it might not have felt like this.
Yeah, we could have
thrown it out there.
We could have been talking about whether they're going to get a wild card spot or the number 3 or 2 spot. But hey,
here we are.
I guess. Yeah. So obviously, big talker around town is still Juuse Saros. The Preds have already confirmed he's going to be out for the last 2 games of the regular season. Beyond that, it's kind of anybody's guess. It sort of depends on which source of information you're looking at. John Hynes was on 102.5 The Game this morning, talk about it. It kind of sounded, a little bit more optimistic. Thought he just said Juuse Saros needs some rest and to let his injury settle down. Elliot Friedman said that a little less optimistic in Nashville. He said there's maybe some doubt he may not be ready for games 1 or 2. So just kind of, I guess the prognosis right now is just kind of depends on who's giving out the information, I guess. There's no really firm answer anywhere.
The NHL is again doing its super vague injury report. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, either way, Ann, it's going to shape things.
Yeah, this is not ideal. Let's just put it out here. This is not ideal for the Nashville Predators. And, we're waiting to see how the postseason will go. John Hynes, again, on 102.5 The Game, said the Predators are hopeful about Juuse Saros in the playoffs. I don't know what to make of that. You can analyze, what does that mean? It sounds positive. Is it wishful thinking? But the bottom line is even not having Saros in these last 2 games is not necessarily ideal for the Predators. They definitely need to get at least a win here winding down the season. And it would be good to have Saros ready to go in the postseason. Instead, we're looking at David Rittich and Connor Ingram in net. And this has become kind of a big debate. John Hynes did say this morning that each of them will get a start in the final 2 games. Who do you think is going to start tonight, though, Nick?
Yeah. I could go either way on this. You kind of seen what you got from David Rittich this season. Colorado is by far the better of the 2 teams.
Yes.
And you're kind of toying with the idea of maybe seeing what Connor Ingram can do in the playoffs. The logical thing would be to put him in tonight against the Colorado Avalanche, who have everything locked up, but they still technically have some stuff to play for. I mean, they still technically have a shot at the President's Trophy if they, I guess, really care about that. Maybe for home ice advantage of the Eastern Conference final or the Stanley Cup Finals in case they play Florida. But they're probably still going to put a solid team on the ice. So if you're going from that regard and saying, okay, let's see if Connor Ingram can kind of stand up to tough competition, you would maybe want to see him tonight against Colorado just to see what he can do. The other end of that is, do you just want to ride David Rittich in the postseason? And if so, would you use this game as kind of a confidence booster for him? If the plan is that, you have faith in Rittich as your backup, which at this point, I'm not convinced the Predators do.
Right.
Then this would be an opportunity to go out there and say, you know what? Go get us a win against Colorado. Go get us a win against the best team in the Western Conference. And let's see if you can kind of wash the stench of the last 10 minutes of that Calgary game off you and reset.
True.
So you can look at really either goaltender and make a strong case at saying it's the logical thing moving forward for them to start tonight.
I would agree with that. I think in my mind, like you said, there are two very distinct schools of thought. And what's frustrating is it's hard to know what to take away from that. Because if Rittich starts tonight, like you said, the logic is, when a goalie has a rough game, a bad game, and the way that Calgary game ended was very, very rough. You want to get them back out on the ice and get them going as quickly as you can to kind of shake that off. The flip side of that is we've seen David Rittich against Colorado earlier in the season. It was not necessarily pretty. And maybe you want to see, hey, what can Connor Ingram do? And Connor Ingram has had a lot more time in net. Now it's kind of apples and oranges because it's AHL time versus NHL time. But Connor Ingram is coming in very warmed up, very used to playing big minutes. So it's 6-1, half dozen to the other. But there's a part of me that thinks if we see Connor Ingram in net tonight, a part of me, the Scooby-Doo sleuth part of me wants to say that this means that they are seriously considering starting Ingram in the postseason if Saros can't go early in a series, just to see what he can do against playoff caliber teams. I'm just not sure you're going to get the same read if you start Ingram against Arizona that you would if you start him against Colorado. So for me, it's almost not so much who's going to start the game. For me, what I wrestle with is what is my takeaway from the decision they make?
Right. And I firmly believe that if Saros can't go, it really is an open race. And I know
agree.
Conventional wisdom is like, look, David Rittich has been your backup all season. You signed him for reasons like this. Ingram's an AHL guy. He's cold in the NHL. But I really do think that this is kind of an open thing where it's the Preds really haven't made up their mind as to what they're going to do. And if they did have confidence in David Rittich, they're going to say all the right things. They're going to say they do. But the fact that he hasn't been playing a lot of these games down the stretch, including some of these back-to-backs, I mean, we've talked about the criticism for that. The fact that the Preds really haven't trusted him enough to play him is kind of telling and what they kind of think of him at the moment.
Well, and as you look ahead, I think it's been fairly obvious, maybe not directly stated, that looking ahead, the long-term plan is Connor Ingram is the backup for Juuse Saros. And you wonder if this is just, hey, we're going to bump up the timeline a little bit and see what he can do in this postseason. Because I'm not sure that, well, nobody thought the Nashville Predators were going to get in the postseason. We're going to talk about that later. But I'm not sure that everybody in the Predators organization felt like during a competitive rebuild year, this is going to be the year we're going to go all in. They may use this as an opportunity to just break Ingram in the postseason. So I think there's a lot of long-term thinking that is going to go into decisions made for a game tonight and tomorrow night. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Predators do. And they're going to be very tight-lipped about it, which is a little bit frustrating. I would, just come out and tell me what you're thinking. But, we'll wait and see who the starter is tonight. I personally would like to see Ingram in net tonight, but I am not John Hynes, in case anybody didn't know.
Well, I mean, you still got the same vibe. You still have the very affable vibe.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Interesting question for you that I want to ask after the break about who would you rather play in the postseason, Calgary or Colorado? That's coming up in just a second. But first, I want to mention today's show brought to you by our friends at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for just a fraction of the price. We're talking about polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every single pair they sell. That means they will send you a brand new pair if you lose them or break them, whatever happened, even if it's your fault, they will help you out. So give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay absolutely nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 free meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Again, that is code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. So, and the Preds just played Calgary 2 nights ago. Tonight they play the Colorado Avalanche. Yeah. So we are sandwiched in between the Preds' 2 possible playoff opponents. In the wild card spot, the Preds still control their fate, although right now Dallas leapfrogged them by virtue of points, but the Preds still have them edged out in points percentage, which means they control their fate. Is there a team between Colorado and Calgary you would rather see?
This is a tough question. I think for a long time it was, it was definitely Calgary. Don't want to take on the juggernaut that is the Colorado Avalanche. And they are a juggernaut, but Calgary ain't nothing. And I think we saw that in last night's game. And I look at last night's game, and honestly, the mom in me, my first thought is, do not play Calgary. Someone's going to get hurt because it was so heated. And I can't imagine what a series would be. It would be very entertaining, though, as a hockey fan, to see them play Calgary. I feel like I would prefer Calgary over Colorado. I just think Colorado is such a powerhouse. And Calgary, we've been able to, the Predators have been able to kind of find some windows of opportunity. Now, we've not done horrible against Colorado either. No. So it's not like Colorado has swept us and we want to avoid them. But I just really feel like Colorado they're at a great place going into the postseason. I think they have been consistently outrageously good and solid. I would just rather play Calgary because I feel like the Calgary series is a little bit more, you can roll the dice and see what you get. But we'll see after tonight's game.
Yeah, maybe we'll change minds if the Preds lose like 8-0.
Very true.
The other thing to throw in there is Calgary has been one of the hottest teams in the NHL over the past month, whereas the Colorado Avalanche, they haven't struggled. You're never going to say the word struggle. You're never going to say the word cold streak. But their pace has fallen off just a little bit. Like, they're not exactly the world beaters that they were, a couple of months ago. I mean, they're still the second best team in the NHL, and they are still going to be one of the toughest teams, probably the favorite in the West. Although, watch out for the St. Louis Blues all of a sudden.
I know, for real.
But, so it's interesting from that. And the other thing is, kind of recency bias. The Preds almost beat Calgary 2 nights ago. You could have argued they should have beaten Calgary. They played arguably their best game of the month against the Flames a week ago in the first of the 2 matchups.
For sure.
And, so it's interesting from that regard. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. Either way, it is going to be an absolute tough matchup. But, at the same time, and either way, I don't say that the Predators have zero chance against either team either.
I would agree with that. And I think that that's shocking. Am I saying the Preds are going to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup? Not necessarily. I'm not going to rule it out but each of these teams, the Predators have beaten in different circumstances. I feel like Colorado has been over the season more consistent, and that's kind of what makes me a little more hesitant to want to jump into a series right off the bat in the first round with them. And I feel like Nashville has some confidence against Calgary going into the series. Neither one of these are going to be easy, but I don't necessarily think that this is one of those situations where this is a gimme first round for Calgary or Colorado against the Predators. Whoever plays the Predators is going to have to play. This is not just a token first round series to get to the real competition in the second round. And the Predators have been chronically underestimated this season. Hopefully, going into the playoffs, we just carry some momentum, we carry some confidence. But I don't think these are gimmies. I don't think we're looking at this as an easy sweep for either team. The Nashville Predators can surprise anyone, and we've seen them this season playing really, really well against the really, really good teams. So, you just never know. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's a clean slate in a lot of ways.
And the Predators, I think, have a lot of tools. Again, a lot of it is going to depend on Juuse Saros.
Yes.
He's kind of been the backstop. But the Predators do have a lot of tools that past Stanley Cup winners have had.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of things like execution, I think, has got to be better, especially when it comes to team defense and turnovers, because that's led to some of these lopsided games where it's been like the Preds have given up like 40 to 45 shots a game. A lot of it is just on like bad defensive execution and bad, management of the puck. And the other thing is, are you going to stay disciplined? Because both Calgary and Colorado, in case you haven't heard, are phenomenal on the power play.
Yes.
Two of the best teams in the NHL, and the Preds penalty kill is not. It's in the bottom half of the league. I think they're ranked 17th at the moment. So those are two things. Like if you stay disciplined and you can kind of clean up some of those mistakes that are leading to these like lopsided looking games, then the Preds have as good a chance as anybody to get very, very far in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think also, if you're the Predators fans, another thing is you're kind of maybe hoping for Calgary a little bit just by virtue of how the playoffs are set up.
Yes.
Obviously, it's based on division, and a wild card team who plays the number one team goes into that division. So if you're the Nashville Predators and you fall into Calgary's their bracket, and you somehow beat the Flames, then your next opponent is either going to be Edmonton or LA. And I know they've had some problems with Edmonton, but compare that to your other option being either Minnesota or St. Louis. I think you'll probably opt for the Edmonton/LA route on that.
No, I agree. I don't think there is a circumstance under which the Nashville Predators want to meet the St. Louis Blues. They're just, that's one of these teams that I think, we're talking about Colorado Stanley Cup contender. And, I've thought that's from the beginning, but the St. Louis Blues are one of those teams that I think could shock everybody this season in the postseason. And I would rather not play them. I would much rather play Minnesota than play St. Louis, because I just think they are exactly where they want to be in the postseason. So I'm with you. The Oilers have been a little bit of a bugaboo for the Predators. We've had a little bit of a thing with them, but I think you stand a better chance against the Oilers than perhaps against the Blues.
Yeah. Are you going to hedge your bets on the team that has arguably been the best in the NHL over the past month and a half? Or are you going to hedge your bets on the team that just got good because they suddenly have respectable goaltending? Not below replacement goaltending. And that's the other thing for the Oilers too. Like, how good would they have been all these years when you have McDavid and you have Draisaitl scoring all these years, and now it's like they have Mike Smith, who's not even like on a great run, just on like a decent
solid
run, and all of a sudden they're like winning like 8 out of every 10 games they play. It's like, oh, was it that easy? We just need a goaltender.
We should have fixed this years ago.
Yeah. Huh. Go figure, Ken Holland. But yeah. So either way could be an interesting option. Colorado is going to be interesting tonight. We're going to go a little bit into the preview, including what we want to see from the Predators tonight, coming up in just a second.
But first, want to let you know this episode is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your betting stats and sports information. You can find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
So Predators playing the Colorado Avalanche tonight. It is a 9:30 Central puck drop. No, 8:30.
8:30, I think.
8:30. I don't know. Just check your calendars, people. Either way, Anne, what do you want to see from the Predators tonight against the Avs?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I think are going to be key in this game against the against Colorado, and for me, it's going to start with defense. And you've talked about this just a few minutes ago. You're going to need to have this defense play well, regardless of who is in net. Juuse Saros, Connor Ingram, David Rittich. This defense has to play responsibly. If you look back at the Colorado games, there are several goals that Colorado scored this season against the Predators that were just defensive lapses. There were turnovers. There was a backdoor guy that literally could have built a house and nobody would have known it because he was all by himself. So it's a responsible defense is going to be key against Colorado tonight.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, you mentioned defense being the key. Who are the two best defensemen on either team? Roman Josi and Cale Makar.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Who have been the two rivals for the Norris Trophy this season?
Yeah. They should
Roman
just
Josi
have
and
it
Cale
out
Makar.
tonight. Let's just decide it in the game tonight.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Wouldn't you just love to see like Roman Josi go out there and have like a 4 to 5 point match, like 4 to 5 point game tonight?
Drop a hattie.
Some insane game tonight against the Avs, and then for the Preds to just like shut down Makar. Like, wouldn't that just be great? Wouldn't that be
so
like
good.
The cherry on top?
So great. I would love it. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. I feel like Josi's getting his mojo going again. And yes, I think, and this is going to be something to really watch in this game, is the Makar Josi thing going on. I think there's going to be, when you have them head-to-head comparison, this is a great opportunity for Roman Josi to tell all of the voters exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. So I think that's going to be very interesting.
Well, it kind of is interesting too, because like if you look at like a lot of the odds, a lot of like the polls that came out, like NHL.com just did their trophy tracker. They all have Josi leading right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of become the favorite. I mean, if you're a voter and you're watching this game and, if Josi just absolutely, we talk about, Cale Makar maybe being the better defensive defenseman this season. And if the Predators, especially Roman Josi, are able to set up like 3-4 scoring plays against him, like, shouldn't that be like the cherry on top of the voting?
100%.
Like, yeah, this guy is supposed to be like the best, defensive defenseman in the league, but our defenseman is so good at generating plays that not even the guy who's supposed to be the best defensive defenseman in the league can slow him down. that's why he should be the Norris this year. That's what I would absolutely love to see.
Yes, I am here for that. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Makar and Josi in this game for that very reason. Another thing that is going to be key to this game, and it pains me to say this, but one of the most successful players that the Predators have had in their games against Colorado this season has been Luke Kunin. So we're going to have a little chit chat.
Right.
We're going to have a little chit chat. Now, Duchesne, Forsberg, Josi have also had strong performances against Colorado. But if you're going to beat Colorado, you've got to have secondary scoring. And Luke Kunin has been very good at that against Colorado previously. What's going on there, Luke? What's happening? What's like, and I'm sure that it's, frustrating and difficult for him, but at some point you've got to produce, and this is your time to shine. Another one I'd love to see kind of break through tonight is Tanner Jeannot. We haven't seen a lot from him offensively. The Herd line has been quiet, but secondary scoring is going to be key. And I'm telling you, watching Luke Kunin tonight, I am watching him.
Yeah,
I want to see something.
From the other end too. He's for some reason getting a lot longer of a leash than Ellie Tolvanen is at the moment. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that this may be a playoff audition for him as well. If he for some reason can't turn it around, or if Ellie Tolvanen jumps back in there and kind of has a bit extra of a pep in his step.
Yes.
Maybe that's sort of something John Hynes has to look at. So there's definitely a lot to kind of consider there. I like what you said about the depth scoring, because, we've talked about, guys like Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen before. We've talked about, Cale Makar on the blue line, but they have a lot of deep pockets in Colorado.
They do
right now. Guys like Andre Burakovsky having a career year. The other night, JT Comfort came through with a couple of key points. So there's a lot of guys there that can do some damage. Colorado reminds me a lot of Tampa Bay the past couple of years, where it just kind of seems like, they had all the big pieces. They had the superstars in place. They just kind of needed, a little bit more beyond their top two lines to really step it up. And they have gotten it so far this year. And I think that's been the big difference of why they're suddenly looking like a cup contender.
They're just solid top to bottom. This team they're, like you said, it's packed. They're really packed with a lot of talent. And what's frustrating is if you look at the Predators roster, in theory, the Predators should have a pretty good depth scoring thing happening. And just recently, it's just not happened. And so this is a game for Luke Kunin, I'm talking to you, and Tanner Jeannot, who he just had a baby, so I have grace and abundance for him. He's probably very tired. But Phil Tomasino, let's see some of these secondary scoring guys. This is the game where you need to jump in the play and make some things happen. I think it's the only way that the Predators are going to be able to match up against Colorado. They're going to need to have top to bottom scoring opportunities.
And that's going to be a key to the game. It's going to be the key to postseason success. If the Preds want to have any sort of Stanley Cup Finals talk moving forward.
Yep.
So again, game tonight is at 8:00 Central. Thank you, Internet. Probably should have checked that first. We'll have a full recap tomorrow. And where can people find your work online?
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
I'm Nick Morgan. You can find me at ontheforecheck.com as well. On Twitter, be sure to follow the podcast at LO_Predators. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the show today, or if you have a topic for us to discuss moving forward. That's going to do it for us today on the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with some recap.